Welcome to In Three Poems, where we read 3 poems with a different guest poet each episode. And the third poem is always a work by another poet chosen by our guest. Today, our guest is Saddiq Dzukogi. He's a Nigerian poet and assistant professor of English at Mississippi State University. He's the author of Your Crib, My Qibla from Nebraska Press in 2021. That was the winner of the Derek Walcott Prize for Poetry and the Julie Suk Award, and it was shortlisted for the Nigeria Prize for Literature. His poems have appeared in Poetry Magazine, Kenyan Review, Prairie Schooner, Narrative Magazine, Plowshares, Gbenga, Poetry London, Best American Experimental Writing Anthology, and the Cincinnati Review. He's received fellowships from the Nebraska Arts Council, Mississippi Arts Commission, and Cave Canem. I'm here with Saddiq Dzukogi, and I think this is the first time we've actually spoken and been able to see each other's faces while we've talked. So it's delightful to do that. Welcome to In Three Poems, Saddiq.
Well, thank you so much, David, and thank you for publishing a poem of mine all those years ago.
Oh my gosh, I'm just honored you even remembered that.
Yeah.
The first time that I read any of your poetry, I was working at a branch library for the Oosterhout Free Library, and they used to do a smaller literary magazine that was mostly local people.
Mm-hmm.
And the director of the library and of the system there just, handed me an old copy of and said, "Hey, any interest in bringing this back to life since I know you write poetry?" And I'm like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, I mean, you're out there at the branch. You need some extra things to do. You can only stock so many shelves." I said, "Wait, so I can work on poetry as my, part of my job?" He said, "Well, yeah." He said, "As long as you do your library stuff too." It was a great opportunity. And I said to him, we talked, I said, "Does it have to be just local like it was? Or can we also be part local and part global?" Because the American Library Association has this thing that I love the way they phrase it. They talk about libraries being both mirrors and windows, because people like to see themselves represented.
Yeah.
So whether that's a community and the collection that we have there,
Yeah.
but we're also windows onto the rest of the world, places you haven't gotten a chance to experience. And so I pitched that whole thing, and the Friends group paid for the printing.
Wow.
And I think I initially actually paid for the website fees, and then I never ended up transferring that to anybody else. So I paid for that for quite a while. But what was cool is Duotrope found us through the website and sent me a message and said, "Hey, we're putting you up there on our website for authors. We picked your latest cover. Does this look all right?" I'm like, "Holy cow, this is great." And then we just had people submitting from all over. And that's how the first thing I read of yours, it was for our winter issue in 2017. And I'll make sure you still get a copy. I guess at that time we sent it to Nigeria, and apparently it never made it to you.
Yeah. There was a time I just stopped submitting to print journals because it's very difficult to just get those copies, in Nigeria. So.
And it was fun though with that because I was able to do a web version as well as.
Yeah, it was. I was really, I saw it. Yeah, and it's 9 years ago now.
Yeah, and you have had quite a trip.
Yeah.
Since then, you're now teaching in Nebraska, and you taught in Mississippi for a while, right?
Yeah. I was at Mississippi State for 3 years, from 2022 to 2025. So it's my first year back in Nebraska. It's been 8 months already. It's just time flies.
And now you have a book that just came out in December, right?
Yes.
Bakandamiya.
Yeah.
From the African Poetry Book Series, published by University of Nebraska Press.
Yeah.
And you're going to read to us a bit of a section from that in a few moments. One of the cool things about this show is I get to be transported back to my YouTube days I was telling you about when I used to record other people's poems. And I get to read the first one, which is kind of fun for me because I find once I've interacted with a piece, or read it out loud, it just takes you to a different level in the thing, helping you wrap your mind around what the author was doing in the piece. And it was just fun. So, So I chose a poem of yours that was first published in Poetry Magazine, September of 2021. And it's called Ring. Do you want me to just read it and then we'll talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Ring. I took a piece of chalk and drew a circle around my body. In that ring, I engraved the names of my loved ones, who are alive, until the only space left was under my feet. Outside the circle, names of ones I lost. We are eternal prey to the circle's energy, looking to decongest its body from our own. What I have is the beginning in my hand. It is what I can wield. Rubbing my palms on the ground, the white line of the circle became a mixture of chalk and dirt on my skin. Still, the two worlds stayed separated after my ritual collapsing their boundaries. I unrolled my prayer mat on the melting snow, sat facing a frozen lake, imagining the sun probing through the ice, 4 inches thick. A man idling in the middle, his machine drilling a wound in the solidified water, ice fishing. I looked on, waiting for his hook to find a trout. What if this is how death finds us? By luring us with what we desire.
Okay, yeah, not a bad poem.
That's not bad at all. You know, maybe it should be like on a podcast or somewhere like Poetry Magazine, somewhere worthy of it, I think. Yeah. Talk to me about the setting there. Was this from an actual experience that you had then?
Yeah.
Because that's a big leap from Mississippi.
Yeah. I was
in
in
a frozen lake.
No, I was in Nebraska. I think it might have been a poem that I wrote during the pandemic. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, in I think 2020, the window of 2020. One of my most the favorite place of mine at that time, and even right now, is some place called Holmes Lake. Actually, I just live 5 minutes away from Holmes Lake now. So
I
that's
love that.
yeah, that's exciting. You know, I've been mapping the contours of Holmes Lake, with my camera because
Yeah,
it's
I've
such
been
a
seeing
trail.
some of your photos on Instagram. We were talking about that too.
Yeah, so like each time that I wanted to cool off, at that time it was like 15 minutes drive from where we were staying here in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'm very afraid of the snow, but it's just beautiful. Like I'd love to sit in my car and just like look at all of the people who come around, like to play with the snow, like the frozen lake too. And I always intrigued by people who would be on the frozen lake, like not just being on the frozen lake, which was ridiculous to me, right? I'm like,
But drilling a hole. In
yeah, but drilling a hole, ice fishing and sub-zero temperature. Like, my goodness, like, well, what's wrong with you? It became, I became fascinated with that, not just the lake, but, like always going there and anticipating who's going to come ice fishing.
Yeah.
And just, like, I thought it was, like, white adventurousness. But it was also like beautiful, right? Because like it was so you can see that like they're with themselves and their equipment, and they're like really well dressed for the weather, and just like the quiet, and like the sheer genius of like drilling a hole into something that's like 4 inches thick or 6 inches, like depending on how cold it is. And at that particular time, like during the pandemic, there's like a lot of death. It's not like there isn't a lot of death right now, right? We're still
Of course, yeah.
surrounded by it, like on the news, like everywhere, back
we
in
were
the country.
we were experiencing it and having to be hidden away from each other at the same time.
Yeah. And also like, yeah, just the distance of that, like I would always sit in my car, and like, it's because like it's warm in the car. And
I have gone birding from my car on days that I didn't want to go out and walk. I
yeah.
roll down the window a little bit, but crank the heater up and see what birds I can hear outside.
Yeah. And so, like I was thinking about that, like the way that you put the bait on the hook. Because sometimes, I'd ask them, like, how do you do this? Because I'm like quite curious about it. Like, oh, like you put the bait, and like the fish has been lured by that bait. And I was thinking about that in terms of time, the passage of time, how like is baiting us, like with the things that we desire, and we spend so much time, like lusting after those things that we desire, right?
Mm.
And before you know, like time has passed. At the end of time, I'm like, well, what's at the end of time if not death?
Mm.
Yeah, I just, like felt it was such an intriguing observation. I'm trying to capture my reflection about that observation in a poem. And, like that's how, like Ring came about. In fact, it was a poem that I would have forgotten about. But I remember I wanted to make a submission, and those last poems,
Yeah.
not the main poems for the like for the journal, but the one that you're like, oh, I just want this to be 4-poem packet,
Yeah.
like, and so like when I received the acceptance, I'm like, what poem is this?
You wanted what?
Yeah, I had to go back. I'm like, oh, okay. And I had the same reaction that I had, like after you just read it, which is well, yeah, it's not.
Hey, that was.
It's not
I
a
wrote
bad
that. That
poem.
was pretty good. I do love that feeling when that happens, and oh, I wrote that.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, because
Maybe I should-
it wasn't in my consciousness whatsoever. Like, yeah, I just, it didn't even have a title. Like it was just like a little thing, and I had to put in a title, to submit it. And if it wasn't accepted, like I imagine I'd never know, like about it, right? Because,
Well, yeah, that's always. I think. Do you find that's the case with you that the title is maybe the last thing to come on a regular basis, or do you come up with a title and write toward it?
I suck at titling, like, yeah, I suck big time.
Well, I had an artist friend. He did the art on all 3 of my chapbooks. The first was a photograph, and the second 2 were paintings. But
Mhm.
Michael McFarland, and we were laughing about this because I said, I have no idea what the title of my piece is going to
Yeah.
be. Maybe at the end it comes together, but it sometimes
Yeah.
takes a long time, and
Yeah.
long after it's written. But he often imagines in his head both the title and what he wants, kind of an idea of what the image is going to go, and then he goes for it and sees what happens. And I'm like,
He's a genius.
well, I think so. Whenever I try to do that, what I end up with is something completely different from
Yeah.
what I first started with under the name of that title.
Yeah, for me, a lot of my writing is sort of anchored on reflection and inquiry. Like I'm always like exploring and trying to discover things, new way of being, new way of seeing. So I'm not really guided by the title. I mean, it's important. I hate to do it, but eventually I get away with it.
Well, you have people like the Shakespearean sonnets and Dear Emily Dickinson, who they're just numbered.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, who cares?
Just in order to catalog, right?
Like who cares? But I mean, the trick that always works for me, it's like, like after I just go and see what's the most exciting phrase, like what phrase sings, what word, like has a nice ring to it. Yeah, but individual poems, I do not like titling it. In fact, I just wrote a poem 2 days ago. And they didn't have a title until this morning.
That's like 2 or 3 days to the title. That's pretty quick in my book.
Yeah, well, like, yeah. I mean, perhaps. Yeah, because if it stays longer than that, I move on pretty quickly to, like to other things. But I haven't written a lot of poems this year. But like my regular practice is like 3 poems a week.
Nice.
And not all of it survive, of course. But like I'm like always practicing. I'm like always trying to exercise those muscles. And so if it doesn't have a title, like by day 2, like I move to something else because I do not want to be imprisoned by like a poem.
I love that.
Yeah,
because it's too easy. It's too easy to get obsessive and imprisoned by the piece that you're writing. I think it is for me anyway. I admire the sense of freedom to leap onto the next thing. And
yeah, because it has to be the whole process, it's rigorous, but it's also play, like I'm doing it because I enjoy it and I want to have fun. And so I try not to get caught like in the throes of anxiety, because I'm like, like it's no big deal. Nobody's going to judge me based on one poem, hopefully.
Oh, I was going to talk to you about that one that I read. Where was that? No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to judge you.
Yeah, like that's what I said. Like, and I'm going to try and like be kind to myself and not judge myself based off a single poem, because it's a journey. Like in every poem, every failed poem, like is
I
a
love that
step, like
outlook.
in that longer journey. And so, like I move through draft. If it's not working, like I'd move to the next thing pretty quickly. And then maybe days where I do not have anything to say, I might open up, like an old file and try to say it better.
Sometimes when I'm not in writing mode, as much as I want to be, I will pull up, like you said, old, what do I have in my notes
Hmm.
and see if anything jumps out and says it wants to be, hey, you forgot about me. I want to do this. Let's go.
Like,
Um,
hey, snob.
hey, you forgot, you left me here on this notebook.
That's good practice,
At least that way,
because it's vibe, right? Like I'm in the mood to create, so I'm gonna create. I'm in the mood to edit, I'm gonna edit. I'm in the mood to be generous, I'm gonna try and share this work, with the rest
yeah.
of the world. Yeah.
Well, that's a neat way to look at it. I think that kind of thing keeps me from maybe that's my way of not getting imprisoned,
Mm-hmm.
of not
Yeah.
feeling stuck. If like, okay, it's a way of hacking into that works for my brain, of
Yeah.
hacking into making sure I'm doing the thing I love. Because it's like I love birding, but if I decide to stay under the covers and I don't want to go out to see the
Yeah.
birds,
Yeah, and no bird is singing from the tree. And sometimes, like all you need to do is like just go out there and just get some ice cream, or like something like
there
that.
you go. There you go. And there's birds everywhere, and the poems are the same way.
Yeah,
And they'll find
poems
you.
are birds. Yeah.
I like it. There you go. Is that copyrighted, that title?
Now like
I won't be
everybody
able
can
to
have
write.
it. No, like take it. Like it's not mine.
No, like I said, whenever I try to write to a title, it never works.
Sometimes like I'm also like just thinking, if you already know, right, then there's nothing to know,
There's
right?
nothing new to find. Maybe
Yeah,
that was
yeah, yeah. So like the cup's already full.
there you go.
So like there's no space to put anything in there.
I love the way you think. It frees yourself from agonizing over it.
Yeah.
Well, so you were going to read a poem. Do you want to say anything about the book before you're going to read a segment from it?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I'd say, I'd love to read the excerpt and then I talk about it. But
Okay.
yeah, just like buy the book. I hear it's good.
Yes. I love that. Unabashedly, buy the book. And I will put links in the show notes for
Yeah.
people to be able to
Yeah.
click on and do that.
Also, like it's such a good line. Like buy the book. I hear it's good. So you want a short excerpt?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna read the first thing in the book. So from book one, Bayajida. Bayajida 1-5. And Haske, snuggling in the hue of Gobaro minaret, whines limerick every evening until his voice wanes in the noise of worship, sings of Bayajida. He gallops away on a camel and then a boat, fleeing the lush banks of Euphrates, the Levant, leaving behind the city near the ruins of Babylon, nuzzling between rivers where a topographer's skilled hands delicately etched municipalities on stones, where poets hewn yesterday's history into today's anthems. There is no benevolence in conquest, for his odyssey in a trance, Bayajidda snatches the wings of a crane, a bird mother that visits his dream crooning of lands of rugged splendor, with farmers growing rice and vegetables at the heel of a desert. For that hymn, he strips her of the pleasure of flight and swallows the discomfort of a one-way expedition. May home forever be lost to your wayfaring, but not your heart. May you hunger for her while she forgets you. She causes in her song of anguish. He reaches Dora, inflamed with homesickness and thirst. They say his turban dangles over his head like needlework woven by the somber fingers of a tempest, a tumultuous crest, with a face half drowned, barely visible.
I just was so drawn in, and it was way past my bedtime in the first reading before I finally went to bed.
Hmm.
I joke sometimes that, well, maybe I'm not a believer because I went to divinity school. But I've
What?
always been.
Instead of putting God in you, they took it out.
Well, I just got so into reading a lot of other things too, and realized I was more into the poetry and paradox of the passages than I was into the doctrine of it, and whether or not it was Hindu or Muslim, studying a bit of Buddhism and learning about Taoism and that kind of thing. I think I enjoyed the comparative religion classes more than more than I did the ones I was supposed to be there for. So eventually I switched to being an English education major and somehow ended up in libraries instead. So
Yeah, look at that.
I guess that's its own epic journey. Some of it, of course, is recognizable from that sort of background, and some of it's a whole new world that I'm learning. And you're kind of blending a lot of different things here.
Yeah.
As well, beyond any one faith, I think, throughout the entire book, and it's a fun read, I think, for that reason.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'd love to read, like also like about other religions, and I have been lucky enough, like that my God, like still sticks around in my heart, but it's just like to remind myself that like a lot of this, I give them questions of faith, and not to get into theology or anything, but it's like all a matter of perspective, right? Because I read and I see similarities in some ways. But in this book, actually, like it's a critique of Islam in the ways that it came to northern Nigeria, like it's by way of conquest.
The Christians went the same direction.
Yeah.
With the Crusades and
I mean, each time each time you allow God to be a weapon in the hands of man, I mean, it's going to be disastrous to say the least. And like my belief has always been some of the things that we have constructed, like for God, like the ways that we try to fight for God, like. My charge always
like he needs
I'm like that's actually blasphemous, because like who are you to fight for divinity?
He's got pretty big shoulders himself, right?
I'm like he God would be all right, God is all right, you are probably not, right?
Well said.
If you think, like you can mount a defense, like for God, because like, I mean, that's a limitation, that's a constraint. It's us, like we have, like an enormous capacity to corrupt, right? And so, like I try not to get into that, but I also privilege questioning. And in a lot of ways, like questions are often seen as adversarial to faith. Yes. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's probably one of the most profound journey of faith that I can undertake, because like it's question that is seeking understanding as opposed to, like anything else, like if I am asking question, I'm wanting to know, right? and wanting to know in of itself is a journey. And so I'm always happy with asking questions, even if there are no answers, right? Because I feel like it's half of the journey completed, right? And if I know to ask the right questions, chances are that, like I'm going to stumble on the answers, like maybe not when I want, but, like eventually, because the answer is the destination and the question is it's the road, right, to the destination.
And I wonder sometimes if there's definitely a parallel in art. I think when we were talking about writing a poem, a question that keeps coming up throughout this season of the podcast has to do with how much do you know at the beginning of the poem? Do you have in sight where it's heading, the way, because I know a lot of, especially fiction writers they'll have the ending in mind, but very often I've noticed a lot of poets just start with like you said, a question. And like, I wonder what that might be. And the poem may build on those questions or going through the journey. And then part of finding the ending may not be like, oh, I have all the answers now, but I know enough to know that was a darn interesting question.
Yeah.
And I can stop there for now.
Yeah. For me, I just like try to follow the threads and, like see what branches, would spring.
See, and that's part of the fun. That's
Yeah.
the most fun of the whole thing.
Yeah, and then, whatever reveals itself to me, I always want to just go, in that room and just have a look, or what's in there. Is it something that interests me? And, a lot of times it doesn't. And I step out of the room, and I'm like, oh, there's another room. And I'm like, oh,
I love
yeah.
your outlook,
Yeah,
Saddiq.
so,
I
I'm
love
like,
it.
yeah, well, there's something here, to figure out. I'm gonna pick it up and, turn it, upside down. And what does it evoke in me? What does it tell me? What does it want me to know? I try to go in there unassuming, I do not have the answers because I'm really trying to understand not just myself, but the things around me, the people around me, and how even the self affects the other things, even if it's an inanimate object, right? Because there's a relationship there, and what does that say? What does that relationship say about me and even about us as humans? Maybe, it's the way of the teaching because I am thinking about my own students. And one of the things that I love to do is just to help them discover the pleasure, of writing.
Yeah.
That it can be enjoyable. That it's not life and death, it's just a freaking poem.
Right.
And one of the things I love to do is trying to teach observation. And I have this assignment that I absolutely love, which is three things. First, it's just a mundane observation from your life, what thing have you seen that interests you? And so just describe that in a line or a sentence, or in a phrase. And then another thing is what's one random memory that you have, and what's one word or one question that you have. And all I'm trying to do is to teach them to pay attention, to reflect on, their observation, the things that they've seen. But this is an assignment where I do not tell them why, I just, they have to do it every week, and I'd randomly ask them, I'm like, what are your observations? What are your questions? What's the one word? What's the one memory? And I never say anything. I just want them because I'm thinking, it's a journey that, I want to set them on that journey, but I want the discovery to be deeply personal, I want them to discover that for themselves as opposed to me, telling them, right?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, because, we resist things, even the things that are good for us, if I tell you, oh, eat, healthy, drink
Breakfast
water.
is the most important meal of the day.
Yeah. You're just not going to do it, where we rebel, so.
So have you ever had any feedback that somebody says, I was thinking about that one word and that question and ended up writing a poem about this?
Yeah. I've had, and I still wouldn't tell them, but I'm like, yeah, that's the goal, right? Because you're actively moving around the world and constructing prompts for yourself, right? And all of those are supposed to, be a seed, for a poem. But I want that discovery to come, from them. And I never say anything, but I mean, that's the goal for me. I'm trying to get them to write. And also, I'm trying to get them to remove some of the obstacles that they throw in their own way, because I absolutely believe, there's always something to write about.
Yeah.
There's always a story waiting for us to pick it up, on the street every single day, every single time. It's just, are you able to see it, right? And if you see it, are you able to draw a relationship to that thing that is unfolding outside of your body and, what's happening inside of your body? So what reflection do you have, right, about the things that you're seeing? Does it remind you of anything? Is there a connection to a moment in your own life that you can draw a relationship and map the contours of that to touch the other observation that is happening outside of your body? Because I believe there's always connections, right?
Right.
The question is, are you able to see it?
That's fantastic. And I love the when you say about connections, because it's part of why I like doing this thing where I'm like, hey, I'm going to read a poem of yours. Why don't you read one? And you start seeing connections in the middle of the chat that we have that maybe I didn't see when we started.
Yeah.
Especially even when we get to somebody else's poem.
Yeah.
at the end, because we all kind of we're influenced, if we're paying attention, not just by what's around us maybe, but what some of our ancestors or contemporaries have
Mhm.
done.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And that's part of the fun too. I want to say it was Stravinsky who was talking about taking he would sometimes just take a whole section of somebody's of
Mhm.
somebody's music and recreate it, but then do something so different with it. And
Mhm.
he had a phrase that I heard in an interview where he said, "But I steal because I love.
Mhm.
I love the music, and that's why, and I love I just have to sing it. I have to play it, and
Yeah.
maybe we do that more than we realize."
I think a lot of people just do not have the, I don't know, like the generosity to admit, like that. I mean, it's not even stealing. Like you go around and you're absorbing things, right? Like people saying things, and you're taking that in, language, like from the books that you're reading, from the music, like that you're listening to, from the scene that you're observing, like from the people in your life, like they might not be writers, like, but how many times have we heard, like from our loved ones, like say something.
This better not end up in your book.
Yeah, yeah, and then like you're like, like I'm listening for that, right? Because like the one thing about being a poet is like you're also like training your ears to hear the sound, right? The music of day-to-day speech, and like there've been like a lot of times where somebody said something in a coffee house, like they're not poet, but I'm like, oh wow, that's like extremely poetic,
That's
like
good. Let me
that's
write that down.
lyrical. Yeah, like, and we don't even give credit, it's good too, right? But yeah,
But there's the shared experience of
yeah, because we're having a conversation, like we're all developing this language, like
yes,
we're expanding the bounds of the language. And the thing that a lot of people call originality is like overrated. There's nothing that is original actually.
yeah,
Yeah, because like I mean, and yeah, I agree. There has to be a point of departure, right? Because like, but we're all learning from each other, right? We're all growing this language, like enriching it, like bringing in our perspective, our own personal truth, complicating it with our own day-to-day experiences. That's the only distinction, right? But the language already exists,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's already there, right?
And how can
It's
you not take from it when
yeah.
we're experimenting with it every
Yeah,
day?
yeah, we're in, in conversation, and we've been in conversation for a very long time. Particularly in my book, also like Bakandamiya, like was popularized by Mamman Shata, was a griot in northern Nigeria, and there's an ongoing conversation, like engaging with that indigenous poetic tradition in Hausaland. So like yeah, I'm taking, but like I'm also paying homage, right?
Yeah,
This
that's it.
is yeah this yeah I'm changing it. I'm like subverting it, I'm complicating it, enriching it with my own wisdom, my own insight, and yeah, the hubris of a poet, like my
With
own
my own
wisdom.
wisdom. I freaking love it. I love it. Well, I'll tell you, I would definitely be bragging if I had such a wonderful blurb on the back of my book by Ilya Kaminsky. So we'll repeat your phrase, buy the book, Ilya Kaminsky says. So we didn't get his permission to say that, but that's okay. I don't think there'll be any problem with that. And again, I'll put those links in the show notes, or if you're one that watches us on YouTube, I apologize, but
Yeah,
they'll be in the
I'll tell you what Ilya said. He put it in, like in the blog. He's like, this voice is worth listening to, and I agree. You should
yes.
listen to me.
You could use that line with your students too. I'll tell you what, this is what Ilya Kaminsky said. You got to listen to me. That's fantastic. I love it. So speaking of the conversation, what more do you want to say about the book before we move on to, there's a poem by somebody else that you're going to share with us.
Yeah. I mean, like it's a book that like frightened and excited me like at the same time, and a book that I was relieved that I was able to write, because for a very long time I was thinking about it, making notes, but I quite couldn't figure out like the form, like or what I would do with the language. ones that were percolating in my mind. And eventually, like I thought there was like a gap in skill, right? And like I did like a lot of reading, read a lot of Derek Walcott's, Omeros, T.S.
Oh
Eliot's
yeah,
Four
that's another great
Quartet,
epic that.
Khalil Gibran's The
Mhm.
Prophet. And yeah, I didn't read this one. I had to listen to it, but I listened to Beowulf.
There you go.
Yeah, and so sometimes like it's good to identify like some of the gaps that you have, like, but that shouldn't come in the way of your own poetic vision, right? Because like if you're able to identify that, then what are you gonna do, right? Which is like to bridge that gap so that you're able to tell the story, to write a poem that like you're wanting to write.
One of the things I noticed too is that some of your past experience though does come into it, because even though it changes in the way it's presented, you have a love and a gift for the rhythm that gets created in these couplets or two-line stanzas that are even in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way you use them and expand them, it creates that sort of epic, what was the word I was just using? Pace
Mm-hmm.
that almost feels, and I mean this in a homage in a good way, almost feels like it comes out of mythology or scripture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you, is that something that you did intentionally, or is that just a favorite way of of your constructing stanzas?
Yeah.
Give away
Just
your
like yeah,
secrets.
no. I mean, like there are no secrets. Like it's just a freaking poem.
I love it.
But yeah, I think you're right. Like it's scripture. Like aren't all poets prophets?
Yeah.
But I have
Well, yeah,
been
it reminded me of reading from my own tradition. It reminded me of reading from the Psalms.
yeah, because like this is the thing. Like and I wanted this was quite deliberate. Like I wanted this to be a representation of all of my poetic influences, like which cut across, like the Quran, like the poets that I've been reading, like my own grandmother.
Yeah.
And I love to tell them here that I'm the family scribe. So, like, oh, give me all of your lines, I'm going to put it in my own writing. Because sometimes, like,
They're not yours
yeah, my
anymore.
kids
They're
would
not
say,
mine.
like things like extremely smart, like, and I put it in a poem before. My son, he's cooking and he's like looking at me. He's turning 12 next month.
Wow. God
Like,
bless.
and they would say things, like incredibly smart, like that's, like innocent, like childlike. But it's a poetic moment. And, because I am skilled at recognizing poetic moments, I'm like, oh, like that needs to be in a poem.
Yeah.
And like I do that all the time. But in terms of the couplet, I have been strictly writing couplets the last 6 years now.
Okay.
I haven't written anything, outside of couplet. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm predictable.
No,
I'm probably boring, but I just like it, right? Because like the duality that it affords
I'm
me.
heavily into tercets myself, so I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah. And
You
and
get
I feel
into your
like
voice and your rhythm.
yeah, and I feel like I've got it in lockdown. Like I've got this. Like I've got confidence.
I'm
Like
good at
yeah,
this. I'm good at yeah.
yeah. I really feel like it, but it's something I had to like really train myself in. And I thought like in the book, it would be a good place to showcase like the things that I've been doing for the last couple of years. But it's quite intentional, because also like it the constraint, like it challenges me,
Yes.
like to push the language, to have some level of control and
Mhm.
intentionality. And so I like that for that singular reason. Just visually, like the couplet is like, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's appealing visually.
And that's another theme I think that's come up this season about having a form, having a container to pour things into.
Yeah,
Like you use the word constraint, and it gives you a sense of control over things that
yeah,
you might not otherwise
yeah,
have. But it also, I think it also can give life to the thing when you realize, oh, that's how it's
yeah,
shaped. And
yeah,
this is how
yeah.
it's going to go.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically like the only thing that I try to control. But everything else, like like I'm just like letting it be there, and like sitting there and breathe, and like be its own thing in the world. I'm just like a tailor
Okay.
making the cool cool dresses, like for the poems.
Just
Like, oh
doing
no,
that.
no, that's not what you're supposed to wear. Like I've got this really nice blazers for you. It's
There
called
you
the
go.
couplet.
Just working on the seams there a little bit.
Yeah.
So who's the poet that you're going to read for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna read this Nigerian poet Gbenga Adesina. He just like had a book out. It's titled "Death Does Not End at the Sea." It's such a incredible book of poems, and I wanted to read the poem "Vows." Vows. Here a memory. When my father fell into himself, and the waters within him broke their vows, she wilted to half of her cup. She wrapped herself in a black shawl. She, my mother, crawled to his side, put her ear to his chest, said, "If a body is yours, you can hear the needle of silence in its skin." She, my mother, put her mouth to my father's ear, said, "I'd call your body, which is mine, by name. You'd come back to me. How can a body the whole length of which you once traveled with your tongue close itself to you? When he, my father, closed his eyes and breath, and his body became a bridge he had left behind on a journey, and they wheeled him down the stairs, she, my mother, sprang after them. She cried out, 'My name is inside his tongue. I need to get it back.'"
Nice.
Yeah, more than nice.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's
good
such good stuff. It's
and I
he's
love
been
the
getting good
offer
attention.
of she, my mother.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
It's quite musical language.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful, beautiful, tender, devastating poem.
Well, thank you for being here, Saddiq. Thank you for taking time.
No, thank you so much.
This has been so much fun.
Yeah, it's great. Like the thing that you're doing with in 3 poems. It's it's amazing, and
I appreciate that.
it's like a labor of love. Being there for the community and sharing words and having beautiful, beautiful conversations. Always like a joy to be.
Yeah,
in
it's like just being able to have. I feel so lucky to be able to do this. And it's just fun to be able to share a little bit and also revel in the fun of being able to hear the verses out loud.
Yeah,
in different voices.
yeah. There's a lot of noise in the world, so this is always common.
One of the things I did want to ask you, was there anything you wanted to say about any projects you're working on now?
What I'm up to lately is I've been doing a lot of photography and just trying to find like a connection between that and my writing. I know that there's a connection, but just to formalize that connection. So I've been writing photo essays. In fact, I just had one published this week.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm doing a couple of those, and it's such exciting.
So it's
new
not just
form.
on Instagram. You're going beyond that.
Yeah.
To say, listeners, if you want to follow along in this journey, follow Saddiq's Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. I have an artist Instagram page where it's not my name, but I'm the one posting my pictures.
I see.
So yeah, that's been fun because it's also therapeutic. So yeah, I had to put a lot of money to buy the cameras, but other than that,
optics are not
therapy.
cheap.
Therapy has been very cheap, because all I need is just I throw my camera in the bag and just take long walks and make art and see beauty.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been fun. So hopefully there'll be a lot of future photo essays coming from me.
Fantastic. I look forward to seeing it, to reading it.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much, David. I really
you,
appreciate
Saddiq.
the time.
Thank you. Follow In 3 Poems, all spelled out, no numbers, on Instagram, Facebook, or Blue Sky. And thank you for sharing the podcast. I appreciate that. Also, thank you for listening. Down in the show notes, you can click on Text the Show if you'd like to send a message. You'll have to leave an email there if you'd like me to contact you back. You can also click Support the Show if you'd like to get access to some upcoming bonus content that we're calling The 4th Poem. I'm David J. Bauman, and this has been another delightful conversation in 3 poems. Thanks so much for coming along.